Welcome to episode 202 of the GT on 5G. It's the latest inside scoop on everything 5G. We cover 6 topics in about 20 minutes, and it's brought to you by More Insights and Strategy. I'm Will Townsend, and joining me again this week is fellow analyst Anshul Sag. Let's get started with my first topic, and this is actually something that you and I, Anshul, actually, you shared this with the firm today, but there were some recent FTC rulings on fake reviews and testimonials. So I want to kind of recap that, get you to provide some color, and then I want to have a discussion with you around whether mobile networks play a role in perpetuating this problem. So what the FTC finally ruled on, and again, I'm going to ask you for some color when I'm done, but there are a lot of things that are now prohibited. You know, the use of generative AI is allowing people to basically generate fake reviews and testimonials. It's been pretty easy for me to sniff that out when I'm, buying a large, dollar item. But with generative AI, it's getting that much more accurate from just a grammar and, whatnot perspective. But so the final rule prohibits the following: fake and false consumer reviews, testimonials, and celebrity testimonials, like the Kardashians that were getting, paid
They got
millions of
dinged.
dollars for one tweet, but now they're fake, right? Buying positive or negative reviews, insider reviews and consumer testimonials, company-controlled review websites, review suppression, misuse of fake social media indicators, and a partridge in a pear tree. So this is good news. It's something that's been coming for a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, really what I think um, this is actually a consequence of what happened with the Supreme Court, where they
Yeah.
said that like any laws or rules that are ambiguous will have to be decided in court. So what they decided is to make things not ambiguous and make it very clear what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I apologize, my green screen is like making my shoulders disappear. Um, but basically, what it means is if you are reviewing a product, you can't write fake reviews. You can't have family members or colleagues write reviews for your own product.
Yeah.
Um, and you have to like disclose any relationships, which is already old news. But what was really interesting was the last paragraph where they're like, also, by the way, you can't fake your social media metrics as a influencer. So no
Yeah.
fake views, no fake followers, no fake comments. So that's going to be really interesting because I don't even know how they're going to enforce that. But
Yeah.
uh, what it actually does, and I think which is net positive, is it will eventually force people to have more realistic metrics, and companies will get more value out of their engagements. Social media platforms will get paid more for promotional posts because
Yeah.
people can still pay for promotion. It just has to exist within the algorithm of the platform. So if you want to boost your tweets, you can pay for that, but you can't have people fake retweet, fake like your tweets. So that's like the difference. You can basically make your things more visible, but you can't create fake engagement. So that is the core of what's going on is just fake reviews are misleading customers, fake following because like let's say you posted a new product and it got tons of views and tons of comments, and it's like people see that as a validation of that product, and it's
Right.
false. So it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out, how the FTC enforces it. It's obviously it will be fines most likely, but I think it'll be really interesting to see how this changes because I posted this on Twitter, and a lot of my friends are social media influencers on YouTube and other platforms, and most of them are pretty happy about it because a lot of these people work really hard to create content, and some of it falls flat on the face, and some of it flourishes. But I'd love to know how you see the mobile networks playing a part in this.
Well, and you obviously you do a lot of product centric reviews, right? Because as an analyst with our firm, you review a lot of client PCs, you review phones, and we talk about that quite a bit on our podcast. From my perspective, mobile networks can make it easier. I mean, you can You can generate chat bots. You can leverage that technology, and a lot of this stuff is launched off of social media. And it's interesting, when Facebook first got started, Zuckerberg believed that it was going to be, a platform that would be used on basically, desktop PCs and notebooks, but it's progressed to mobile phones. So I believe mobile networks may be playing a role with this, because it
like social
allows
media.
these people that are doing these fake out reviews to leverage mobile technology to do it and push it in a very grand way. So,
I'll
and I don't
add,
know if there's necessarily any advantage to, say, a 5G network with lower latency and faster throughput, but certainly these networks support a greater number of devices. But I mean, what do you think?
I actually, now that I've had a chance to understand your perspective, it makes sense because one, mobile networks are what have enabled social media to flourish, right?
Right.
So without mobile networks, you don't have that hyper personalized device that's always connected, that gives you that engaging social media experience, which then requires, constant user feedback. You have micro targeted ads. So
Yeah.
if you can micro target somebody on their device because they're doing so much and giving so much data from their device because it's always connected, then you're able to uh, find the people and skew how they perceive your product based on you know what their profile is, and then you can you know bombard them with fake reviews and fake um, audiences.
Yeah, I just think using mobile, technology allows you to weaponize things and drive it on a grander scale. It's going to be interesting to see how the FTC enforces this. It reminds me of what happened with BitTorrent and Napster, and, like, trying to crack down on folks that were basically stealing, licensed music, and ultimately it was traced back to IP addresses. But I do remember one of the famous settlements with Napster. It was actually an elderly gentleman that was taken to court and sued because it was actually his daughter or son that was using his personal computer to do that stuff. So it's really interesting. I mean, this is very, very late breaking news, and I felt like it was an important thing for you and I to address. A little bit off topic, relative to what we normally talk about, but it's interesting, and we should definitely kind of keep our ears open and our eyes open as things develop here. But speaking of devices, and for our viewers and listeners, this is not fake Anshul. This is real Anshul. You want to talk about the Pixel 9 launch, right?
Yeah, so I've got one right here in hand. If you're watching the video
Cool.
podcast, uh, this was what given to me at the event. This is the Pixel 9. Um, it is one in four devices that are four smartphones that were announced, and there were more devices. Um, Basically, this is their vehicle for Gemini, their AI platform. What's interesting is that Gemini doesn't only exist on the Pixel; it also works on the S24 Ultra, which I have right here. Or actually, that's an iPhone 15 Pro. S24 Ultra, which is in my pocket right here. So this has the same Gemini capabilities as the Pixel 9. And basically, they're trying to use it as a vehicle for um, their AI capabilities in helping you improve your life. I actually used Gemini last night before the update came through, but I asked it like, when do I have tickets for Chromeo? Because you and I travel a lot, and I forget when I have concerts. And I was able to check and make sure I don't have any conflict. So that was great. And that AI is going to be an earbud. So they have the Pixel Buds 2, Pixel Buds Pro 2. Those will have the AI capabilities built in. There's actually an A1 chip that they just developed for those earbuds specifically, and those will
Mhm.
tie into this Pixel phone and use the new um, live Gemini capability, which is like a conversational AI. So you don't just have to activate; you can just talk back and forth and have a conversation with it, answer your questions. And then on top of that, there's a Tensor G4 in this chip, or Tensor 4 G4 chip in this phone. That's their latest in-house chip. Um, that has upgraded cameras. Um, they now added a Qualcomm under-screen ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which is great. And it has all of them have 5G support. So the lineup is Pixel 9, Pixel 9 Pro. So the Pixel 9 Pro is literally the same size as this, but they just added a third telephoto camera to it, which is great. and then the Pro XL, which is like a basically just a bigger version of this. And then there's a Fold, which is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which is the foldable version of the Pixel lineup. So there's four phones. Then they announced the Pixel Watch 3. I don't have that. I did try it out. It's beautiful. They came out with a bigger 45 millimeter size. The original only came in 41 millimeter. And I'm really excited to use that because I think it's a gorgeous watch. It's probably the most watch-like looking smartwatch on the market. Um, and then they also announced the Buds, which I told you about, and it's kind of a very integrated ecosystem. They also announced some smart home stuff like the day before. So they announced a new Generation 4 Nest, which is looks gorgeous. Like honestly, the best looking thermostat I've ever seen. Um, and then they also announced a new Google Home TV with smart home capabilities built in, so you can control all your smart home stuff from the Google TV. The biggest problem I see is that their smart home stuff is still Google Assistant, while everything else is Gemini, and there's like a disconnect, and it should not exist. They have to fix that.
Yeah.
But overall, they did a really good job of kind of tying everything together, talking about AI in a really intelligent fashion, adding new camera capabilities that are AI accelerated. There's a way that you can like take a picture of yourself with someone and then hand that phone to someone else, get in the picture, and stitch yourself into a one photo. So that's kind of a
Wow.
cool feature
But
that they
yeah.
added. And they also added like nighttime panoramas, which is like who even knew you could do that? You can do it on the Pixel.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just a lot of cool AI features that they're going to keep rolling out. They added a new AI weather thing, which is kind of customized based on your preferences. And just think you're going to see a lot more personalization and added features that will just come as updates. They call them pixel updates or something like that. But
Yeah.
it's exciting. And the cool thing is it's not just for Pixels. There's other, Samsung and Motorola phones that are also getting these capabilities.
Yeah, I tell you, Google continues to bring a lot of features to the Pixel, and I've got a very good friend. He's an Android user, and he loves the Pixel product. And a lot of the photo features, he really digs, and that's a super cool feature. How you can jump into a picture, by handing your
Yes.
phone to somebody.
I
So
I
wow,
didn't
yeah,
quite get it at first why someone would want that. And I was like, wait, no, I take all the photos. I would like to also be in those photos. And they
yeah.
demonstrated that with Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, when I go on vacation, like with my daughters, I mean, it's funny. It's like it's all of them, none of me, because if I don't take the pictures, they're never going to do it. So I'd have to check that out. Maybe get a demo there. But cool stuff, man. Well, hey, let's go to my second topic, and I want to talk about SK Telecom. And you and I, we've talked about this operator for many years. If you remember, you and I and Patrick Moorhead, our chief analyst, we did a series on where 5G was at. That was probably 5 years ago. Part of that analysis, one of the Forbes pieces was carriers to watch, and we identified SK Telecom as a leader. What I find really interesting is that they want to fully lean into AI, and so it got me thinking: could they really become the first operator to truly capitalize on the promise of AI? Because when you look at what the others are doing, like AT&T and NVIDIA with intelligent truck rolls, I'm expecting to see more come from that over time. You've got Deutsche Telekom doing some things, Vodafone doing some things, but SK Telecom is super focused on AI. They have an AI chief, and this person has defined what they call the company's pyramid strategy. And the way they define pyramid is a focus on three things, as you might guess. It's infrastructure, it's with data centers, it's semiconductors, and it's large multi-language models. And you need all of that obviously to bring AI to fruition. But what's really interesting to me, SK Telecom is making lots of investments in companies like OpenAI and Anthropic, and in return, those companies are investing in them. They're obviously focused on call center applications, so they have something they call their AI Contact Center, or AICC. And they're reporting that internal tests initially are showing employee satisfaction increasing from 44% with general models to 77% with their new telco large language model. And they expect that that accuracy will increase to 90% over time. They're also in the process of launching what they call their personal AI assistant. Um, and they have designs to go global, which is quite interesting. And there are some operators that do that, like Vodafone through partnerships and that sort of thing. But it's really interesting. Obviously, SK Telecom wants to get the credit for AI. AI has cooled a little bit. I don't know if you've been keeping up with some of the buy side analysts on Wall Street, but they're questioning, what's the true value of all of this? And Nvidia has sort of fluttered. I think they're up today. They're over 120 a share. But what do you think about all this? Is it sort of window dressing, or is there some reality under the hood here?
I think we're still so early that it's really difficult to fully comprehend the impact.
Yeah,
I think it's almost irresponsible to be as hyped as people are, but also irresponsible to expect results this quickly.
yeah,
So it's like I'm much more of a balanced approach guy. So like I don't like to get too hyped about things, but I also don't think we need to see results immediately. Because it seems ridiculous to be really hyped about something and then immediately expect results.
yeah.
Um, so I think we're in a place where we should maybe slow our roll a bit, but also not expect the world to change overnight. So
Yeah.
um, I think we are in a place where a lot of interesting things are happening, but we still have room for improvement on efficiency, cost, power. All these things need to improve. So this might take a little bit longer, but we might have some fun and interesting new applications along the way.
I agree. From my perspective, I think the right focus is to narrow down and identify use cases, and certainly call center is one of the ones that's bubbling to the top. Their approach is different. They're kind of going out, with this three-pronged strategy and, making multi-million-dollar investments in companies that are doing
Sure.
models and asking them to do the same with them. It's an interesting approach.
I mean, I'm seeing customer service across the board. Qualcomm showed customer service and how they were saving on cloud by doing local AI. And then there
Yeah.
were other companies, some PC OEMs talking about how they're using AI for customer service to accelerate, time to the resolution. So I think
Mhm.
customer service is kind of a low-hanging fruit in a lot of ways. But I also think it's like, easy to show ROI. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey man, let's go to your second topic. You want to talk about the Department of Defense and their potential use for 5G. I mean, we've talked a lot about use cases within the Navy and the Marine Corps. If you remember, I think we talked about the private deployments to manage, logistics and warehousing and that sort of thing. But you want to take a different spin on this week.
Yeah, so there's been some talk recently. There was a conference uh, called Defense One. It's a pretty popular conference, and they were talking about the future of 5G, which might integrate and include integrated sensing and communications, um, which would use signals, radio signals from networks to detect and analyze objects and enhance operations, and enable new services like gesture recognition and environment reconstruction. So um, they want to kind of add these signals into what they already are using in their more secure networks. The DoD had a 5-year plan that they had released in 2020 to implement 5G, which was very focused on data and machine communication capabilities, and how to use those for warfare and logistics. But the thing is that they're talking about how the DoD has financial challenges, and has had challenges in rapidly deploying 5G networks, and that there are networks all over the country, like in Albany or in Coronado here in San Diego, and they even have roaming agreements with AT&T, and they were saying how they're actually able to uh, kind of combine their network with AT&T's to and broaden the capability of their network. And talking about potentially having these kind of hybrid 5G networks that might actually be able to help them uh, take advantage of all of these capabilities and grow their network and make it more useful.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at um, what's going on with budgets and things like that, it makes sense that they would want to try and make sure that they're not um, picking the wrong partners.
Hmm.
They're talking about how maybe 5G infrastructure in Africa might not be the right move
Yeah.
for pairing these things together. But there's talk about zero trust environments and zero trust security, and how that might be a way to ensure that this is possible. But also using trusted vendors like Samsung and Ericsson to implement these zero trust architectures. So I think that there is some potential, for using public networks, but I think it is also an added risk, which is why we haven't really seen much of that happening. There have been some contracts won for 5G connectivity, but that's, I think, mostly for individual use, and not necessarily as much for tactical or warfare applications.
Hmm.
But in general, it's just really interesting to see how their approach is changing and how there are attempts to maybe mitigate the slowness of the deployment, because ultimately connectivity on most bases sucks, and there's lots of room for improvement, but it does feel like things have moved really slowly. And there was $250 million of budget set aside for 5G networks, but let's be honest with ourselves, that's not enough.
No.
Um, and I have a feeling that the public operators, especially in the US, will probably end up, maybe dedicating a slice or having some kind of 5G standalone architectural implementation that would allow them to have some kind of, you know, situational readiness that's also secure. And I think that might end up being more of a hybrid approach, kind of like we're seeing with private 5G networks.
It's interesting that that they're considering this hybrid approach, and I would think that, I mean, you can do a lot with policy segmentation and that sort of thing. You mentioned slicing as well. And there are things you can do from a slice perspective to introduce security. So, T-Mobile has done that with a security slice with its SASE offering to enterprises. T-Mobile for Business also sells to the federal government. But
It could also
yeah,
be a way to get the operators to transition faster to standalone.
right. Yeah, no, it definitely could. So it's interesting. So I don't think so. From my perspective, they're gonna for tactical and warfare purposes, they're gonna have to do private, right? For the obvious reasons. But when you start looking at supporting connectivity services on bases, like you mentioned, um, even logistics, like the Marine Corps example that we have shared, a couple of times. That actually happened last year, was my recollection. That's a private deployment with JMA. But you're right, in order to stretch budget, it would make sense to engage with those operators that confidently do not use infrastructure that's of a concern to the federal government, right? That rules out a lot of rural U.S. Cellular's footprint as they get gobbled up by T-Mobile and who knows who else. But it's a very interesting approach, and if they lay it out correctly and they use the right policy segmentation, it can work. But it introduces complexity in a hybrid scenario. But I'll also mention T-Mobile as well. One of their routes to market is offering a hybrid service, right? That blends private networking elements with public networking elements based on use case, workload, security need, and that
And
sort of thing.
cost.
So yeah, and cost. So wow, I think it's interesting. I need to read up on this a little bit more. I'm glad you brought it as a topic to the podcast. But let's go to your third, or go to my
Your
third.
third.
My third. Sorry, it's been a crazy week.
I'm
It's
in the
been
same boat. I'm on the
incredibly
road
busy.
again tomorrow.
Yeah, and I just published a Forbes article on Black Hat, not related to 5G,
And
but
I did
viewers and
publish
listeners.
I did publish an Apple 5G modem report today, so that's actually relevant.
I saw that. So that is relevant. Mine is not as relevant. But my third and final, I want to give a preview on an upcoming analyst insight that I'm writing, and it's on mobile network programmability. And we may have talked about this last week. We've talked about it numerous times. I'm not going to rehash things, but it's been a slow tail from an adoption perspective. Ericsson acquired Vonage for 6.2 billion with impairment charges. That's been completely written down. About a year ago, Nokia jumped into the game with their network as code. But my thoughts are as I've done the research, and by the way, I'll be publishing this, I'm hoping, by the mid to latter part of next week. But what my research has done and turned up is, one, there's a lot more focus from an open source perspective on this. So the Linux Foundation with Kamara and with ONAP, there's been a lot of advancement over the last just 18 months to get there. And the GSMA is also involved. And so their Open Gateway initiative that they launched last year, that I wrote a Forbes piece on as part of my wrap up for Mobile World Congress Barcelona, included that. So it's been a while since I dug into it. And as I dug into it, there's a lot of activity going on with the GSMA, with Nokia publishing a set of tools that are going to facilitate easier and more agile developer interaction when it comes to leveraging API calls to do interesting things over mobile networks. But I don't want to give away all of the tidbits here, but just stay tuned. It's something that I've wanted to dig in for quite some time, and just stay tuned for it. So any thoughts on that? Have you dug into it recently?
I have not, but I'm looking forward to reading your article.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to reading your Apple article too, my friend. So, hey, and that's a great segue to your third and final topic, not mine. You want to talk about Oracle, and they're signing up a deal with AT&T
Yes.
around programmable APIs.
Yeah, so it's actually like a renewal of an existing deal. Um, it's basically like they refresh their engagement for basically Oracle's cloud application customers to connect and manage IoT devices on AT&T's network across a single platform. So
Yeah.
its enterprise communications platform uses AT&T's network and APIs to provide IoT connectivity and near real-time communications to its suite of industry cloud applications. So this is like a connecting of Oracle's cloud with AT&T's network, just making it easier for customers who use both to connect the two and to seamlessly operate their IoT networks and devices under one roof. Having these APIs will make it easier for software developers to take advantage of both networks, and the applications are already running in the cloud. And it's just another way to take advantage of 5G for business applications that also leverage the cloud. I've seen a lot of Oracle's moves in the cloud, and they seem to be continuing to gain in the cloud space, especially with 5G. So it's good to see they're partnering with AT&T. I know you work really closely with AT&T, so I'd love to
Yeah.
hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I caught this news as well, and I think it's fantastic. Oftentimes when people discuss telco cloud, it's about AWS. Azure has sort of backed off a little bit. They're not delivering the entire platform anymore. They're more or less just sort of enabling, developers and that sort of thing. But Oracle is sort of the best kept secret. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI, they've historically had a very strong focus on telecommunication workloads. And I spent time with that team, and I continue, like you, to be impressed with the inroads that they're making here. And this is a great example. I mean, this isn't a tier 3 operator. This is AT&T. This is big
Yep.
time, right? So I think this really points to Oracle's potential to really compete with the likes of AWS, who has the hearts and minds of, of everyone, right?
Right.
But yeah, and I'm going to say it again. I've probably said it 100 times on this podcast. Competition breeds innovation, so I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that when you look at like Oracle's already existing customer base, it's a lot of huge customers. So, I think a lot of them are look at AT&T and Oracle pairing as a friendly and scalable solution.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, my friend, I got a little tongue tied there towards the end. I think it's just the heavy workload that you and I are both under, but it's been another great podcast. Why don't you take us home?
Absolutely. We hope our viewers and listeners found this week's topics interesting. If anyone out there would like to provide insights on a specific 5G topic for a future podcast, please reach out to us on social media. Will's at Willtown Tech and on at OnShell SOG. We hope you have a great weekend and please tune in again next week and don't forget to rate and subscribe.